introductions for the evening. Our panelists are here, and it's a great pleasure to introduce them. We have a friend of the family again, in the person of Dr. Toyin Sam Emehelu. Thank you very much for being here. We also have a very wonderful friend of the family in the person of Ms. Uzoma Uduma. Thank you so much, ma'am, for being here. Good evening,
Thank you.
Yes, we also appreciate Ms. Tolani Hassan for being here. She's been with us since morning, and we totally appreciate you. Thank you very much, ma'am, for being here. And we appreciate our team lead CEO, Mr. Bossman Adedokun. Thank you for always being there. Thank you for your guidance. And Ireti Oluwalawal, thank you so much for your support. We appreciate you. Thank you very much, sir. So yes, very quickly before we move into our panel discussion, we have our panelists here, and we just take their professional bio and then we move. Okay, so we have Ms. Uzoma Uduma. She's a dynamic educator and EdTech leader with over 16 years of experience, spanning early years, Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2 education. She has successfully led year groups and cross-functional teams with a growing reputation for transforming traditional teaching approaches through digital innovation and strategic coaching. In her current role as Assistant Head of School for Teacher Development, Technology and Innovation at Children's International School, Lekki, Lagos, she champions the purposeful integration of technology into teaching and learning. She designs CPD frameworks that equip teachers to use interactive tools, AI-assisted platforms, and virtual learning environments, ensuring that every educator is both confident and competent in the digital classroom. Previously serving as an instructional coach, Uzoma developed content, mentored staff, and led initiatives that promote tech-enhanced instructional delivery aligned with school values. She's passionate about helping educators embrace AI, automation, and digital pedagogy to enhance engagement and impact. Uzoma holds a BA in English from the University of Uyo and a PGCEI from the University of Nottingham, UK. She's an accredited Jolly Phonics and grammar trainer with Jolly Learning Limited, UK, and a certified TESOL TEFL educator, demonstrating her commitment to global best practices in language instruction. Driven by her belief that growth is intentional, not accidental, Uzoma is deeply invested in reshaping teacher mindsets, integrating technology into everyday practice, and preparing educators for the future of learning, powered by innovation, creativity, and human-centered tech. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me as we welcome Ms. Uzoma Uduma.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. All right, our second panelist for this evening is no other person than Dr. Toyin Sam Emehelu. She's a human capital development expert, leadership and skills challenges for corporates, NGO, and SMEs in 5 African countries. She drives outstanding performance and revenue growth. Her story is rooted in passion for education and transformation. She started teaching at the age of 13, became a professional educator at 24, and emerged as the best student during her master's degree, achieving a first class in educational psychology. Since 2012, she has been privileged to work with private, low-income, and public schools in various capacities. Her passion for personal and human capacity development led her to become a fellow professional at CIMCN, PACA, and IMC. She's a voracious reader with 28 books to her name and an advocate of successful family life. She has also earned several awards for her contributions to education, leadership, and business. Since 2020, she has been building a community of aspiring educational consultants, mentoring and coaching them to become impactful in their fields. Her commitment to the development of basic education in Africa earned her an honorary doctorate in educational management and planning from Prowess University in USA in 2022. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me as we welcome Dr. Toyin Sam Emehelu.
Yeah, thank you. It's my pleasure being here, and I really appreciate being a part of this. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We appreciate having you here. All right, so yes, we're speaking about assessments. closing the gap, the pathway to building equitable assessments. All right, we'll start with Dr. Tuin. Share your thoughts on the topic, closing the gap, pathways to equitable assessments.
Okay, so good evening once again, and I want to say a very big thank you to the entire team at Thesis Education Group. And as we look at closing the gap in the education space, this is a very insightful topic regarding assessment. And I mean, iLearn has been championing how assessments can be better in our schools, and this is the 4th edition. And I must really commend the efforts that we have put into this. So, of course, just like the question has said, we've had a lot of barriers when it comes to achieving equitable assessment in our schools today, ranging from the fact that we have children with different learning styles, different learning opportunities, as well as different learning environments. And because of this, and also the myriad ways of different assessment, many assessments still favor students from certain backgrounds. That's the truth. And those with better language skills, access to resources or exposures to specific teaching styles, while unintentionally, I would say, has posed some kind of disadvantages to others, especially students with different learning differences from undeserved communities, or those who actually can't speak the indigenous or the official language cutting across different countries. So for equitable, so some of the barriers actually also when we look at the overemphasis on standardization testing. And one thing standardization does not capture in most cases has to do with diverse strengths and diverse situations that learners find themselves. Another thing also is that a lot of teachers have not been infused into inclusive and culturally responsive assessment practices, just because it's like there is a mode, all round square, round holes rather, and where we have square pegs. So it's not quite infusive. We also have barriers such as inconsistent access to technology. So for example, we have some children that they don't even have access to digital resources. And so digital assessment is being shortchanged. And the place of lack of differentiated assessment, right, that actually reflects students' unique learning needs and context. So take, for example, most of our tests is still either written. We don't even embrace tests that cut across maybe verbal or even expressions through projects and the like. So equitable assessment actually requires a shift from a one-size-fits-all to more of a flexible, more of a fair and inclusive approach that truly reflects what a student knows and can actually do. And what exactly is the overall purpose of assessment is to test whether learning has truly taken place. And in often cases, the kind of assessment that we have right now does not do justice to that. Sometimes time constraints, sometimes the barrier of even the use of internet in the case of computer-based tests and the likes. So I think that's the thought I would like to share on that for now. Let me just stop speaking now so that other panelists can take over other parts of the conversation. Thank you so much, Eunice.
Thank you so very much, ma'am. Thank you so much. Yeah. All right, Ms. Uzoma, please share with us. As we are discussing assessments, there have been recurring conversations around teachers, who are the major people who, give out these assessments to schools. Most times we see in practice that teachers are more interested in covering the curriculum, right? And so they want to do everything within their power to cover the scope, rather than ensure that learning is actually taking place. How can schools create room for meaningful assessments in these kinds of cases without overwhelming the teachers, ensuring that the teachers are not in a hurry to cover the curriculum, or that teaching and learning actually takes place?
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. I love that question because it's kind of like borders on things I'm passionate about. So when we talk about curriculum, right? Both teachers and schools, we have this, I don't want to call it misconception, but we have this mentality that we need to teach every single thing or in the curriculum. So schools would have things like scheme of work, or whatever it is that guide them during the term. And then you would have what to cover in week 1, what to cover in week 2, and all that. Now, the pressure starts, getting high when you have, let's say you have multiplication week 1, you have division week 2, and then you see that in week 1, maybe you've taught it, but some children haven't picked it up, and you are under pressure to move on to division. Now, what schools can do to run away from that, to avoid that? So we go back to content, we go back to curriculum, okay? Some of the scheme of work, some of the things that schools have, for example, in week 1, week 2, week 3, the way this works is contents are interrelated, they are interwoven. So, for example, when you are teaching the skill of multiplication, you're also teaching the skill of division. So you have something like when children are learning addition, you tell them the inverse of addition is subtraction. All right. In essence, school do not have to wait to get to a particular week to teach a particular skill. All right. Some of the skills are interwoven and they can be taught together. That way, normally what should actually happen is we have 3 terms in the school year. So in week 1, in term 1 and term 2, some topics can be merged. Some skills, like I just said, can be merged. You teach whatever you need to teach, and I'm talking about skills. I'm talking about concepts, skills and concepts. You teach whatever you need to teach, term 1 and term 2. And honestly, in reality, term 3 should be for revision when you are consolidating concepts. Okay. Sometimes we find that in term 3, we are still trying to cover the curriculum. It's still the rat race of covering curriculum. So at the end of the day, there is no time for revision. There is no time to consolidate. That's where we lose it sometimes. There is no consolidation. So it's all about going back to the drawing board. I know we clamor, oh, curriculum, but honestly, curriculum is flexible and every school can actually adapt and create or structure the curriculum in such a way that it favors their students. Now, I go back to skills in terms of closing the gap, which is what the summit is about. In terms of closing the gap, we are dealing with Gen Alphas. Very soon we will have Gen Betas, and they are still coming. What we had 2 years ago is not what we have this year. These children keep adapting, they keep evolving. And as they are evolving, their skills are also evolving. We have moved from curriculum content to skills. Every single thing that is being taught in school is online. Everybody can Google it and get it. But we need to get on to teaching skills. Now, talking about skills, when you're teaching English, you can have cross-curricular links and teach maths. In teaching English, you can teach maths, you can teach social science, you can teach geography, you can teach other skills. You do not have to wait till you get to a particular content or concept before you teach it. So now, talking about assessment and closing the gap, sometimes we miss, if you check question papers in schools, what you will see is most of the questions sound like, what is the blah, 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 blah? Who is the blah, 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 blah? Do you know what that is? That is the lowest level of the Bloom's taxonomy. Remembering. We are just testing them to remember. But we need to move from remembering to understanding to applying to justifying to evaluating. Our questions should be looking like evaluate the issue of blah, 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 blah. Then children are talking, they're using their skills, they're using the things that they have learned to answer questions. We need to be pitching our questions high. We need to be doing higher order thinking questions. That's what we should be pitching. We need to move away from what is, to justify your answer, compare and contrast. Why do you think? How is this working? And we move away from the what and all that. So we need to focus on teaching skills, and these skills can be taught in class. We don't even need to wait for assessments, questions, exams to teach those things. In your normal teaching, your daily teaching, ask those questions. A child would answer you, Dr. Tony, what is 2 plus 2? And the child will say 5. Instead of saying, no, 5 is not the answer, say, why do you say so? Let the child tell you what their reasoning was. I mean, we know that 5 is not the answer, but let children get to the point where they are actually sharing their thoughts, what they are thinking, how they came about what they are talking. So I would really advocate for schools to go back to the curriculum, structure the curriculum to cater to skills, and questioning is a big deal. Let's go to Bloom's taxonomy and move away from the first 3 levels and get to the last 3 levels. We need to be pitching children to the point of creating. That's the highest one, creating. That's where we need to go to.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. Uzoma. This brings back what our first speaker spoke about this morning when he was speaking about creativity and AI. He says that if subject mastery is all that you hold on to as a teacher, then you're not intelligent in this 21st century.
You're not.
Yeah, because intelligence right now, yes, is defined as your content, right, and your ability or your AI literacy. So if you are asking questions that children can Google and give you the answer, or use ChatGPT to give you the answer, then what's the point?
What are we doing?
I mean, you have to involve, exactly. So yes, that's very key. And thank you very much for lending your voice.
You're welcome.
All right, we'll come back to you, Dr. Toyin. Please tell us, how can schools help parents shift from focusing only on report card grades to understand actual learning process? You see, we are still very much in that era of what did you score? Do you have an A or a B, right? And so how do we educate our parents? How do we help them to focus on, it's not necessarily about what your child is able to produce as a score, but what they are able to create?
Okay, so I would say that the beautiful thing is we are already working towards it in the right direction. Maybe not as maybe not at the dimension of speed that we should. Number one, at least we've removed that positioning, first, second, third. So that's why I said we are beginning to realize that it is not really about comparing or trying to say, okay, one child did way better than the other. But the truth is, a lot of parents still focus on grades, right? And I was this morning, I was at a breakfast meeting with some parents. And I must say, first off, schools are also responsible for educating parents. The 21st century school is not just all about educating the children or just making sure that, okay, the children are coming to school to learn. It's important that schools begin to understand that part of their responsibility is to educate parents as well. So for 3 good hours, we're having conversation about intentional parenting and being able to focus a lot more on the aspect of value-driven learning as to just focusing on academics and grades. So I would say the first thing is the school just has to create this awareness by having conversations, bringing in competent, knowledgeable, experienced educators or consultants, as the case may be, to actually come, because sometimes, because they're so used to the school owner, the school community, the teachers in that community, they may not take it so seriously. But when you have practitioners, leaders, instructional designers, learning coaches come in to share, there's just this feel of external flavor that brings about people just wanting to listen more. So that awareness must be created, and letting parents know that, okay, a child that's even moved from a level C to a level B has also experienced progress, not necessarily gone in for the A, all right? We always say something in education that progress over results, we need to be able to even celebrate children that are putting in the necessary efforts, at least to move from where they used to be to a reasonable level of academic excellence. And, another thing I want to also say that is very important is while we were growing up, right, we the reason why they say we should go to school, go to school is just like why we are wired to think about the industrial age. The industrial age was such that people went to school just because they felt that, okay, going to school was the escape route out of poverty. And it was more or less like we are positioned to, after you are done with school, go and get a job. But the interesting thing now about the age that we are in right now, the knowledge age, the technology age, is all about what problems can you solve in the world. So having to even reconstruct our context from saying, what do you want to be in the future, to what problem do you want to solve in the world, it's a huge paradigm that we can begin to help stakeholders in the education industry, especially the parents, to be able to decipher. And another thing is also having the understanding that not everybody will go through the conventional university. I love what TCS is doing, championing vocational education and doing a lot around TVET. And I'm super excited because one of the beautiful things that has happened to my own life personally, and my children have decided to pursue trade courses for their future learning experiences. So take, for example, my daughter, is looking forward to being a fashion consultant. And one of the things I've helped her to achieve, to help her put her on the line, is right now she consults for me anytime I want to dress up to my speaking engagements. So she's having hands-on experience, and somebody was like, she needs to add the experience of what she's doing for you on her resume, which I totally agree. Because whether we like it or not, I usually have to give her how will I put it now, a lowdown of, okay, I'm going for this speaking engagement. These are the target audience. This is what I want to go and discuss. How do you think I should look? So she then begins to combine the colors and combines how I'm supposed to dress up. So anytime you see my picture, like I think it was Ireti or somebody that saw my picture, like, Ma, you're looking younger every day. It's because I have a fashion consultant in my life, which happens to be my daughter. I hope you're getting the scope of what I'm trying to share. So, and my son is looking forward towards becoming a chef. How about that? And that is just to let you know that this question that you have asked is actually very on point. So as I speak to you right now, it's cutting the fried rice ingredients that we'll be using to cook breakfast tomorrow. So ensuring that parents begin to also see that, nurturing that natural talent and desire. And before I left this morning, I just boiled the chicken and he grilled it and he called me at about 10 a.m. I said, Mommy, stew for the weekend is ready. So, I mean, in my life, I'm so blessed because I wouldn't have to pay fashion designers anymore and I wouldn't have to pay a cook because I have skill-based children already solving problems within the context of my home, which will then give them the platform to be able to do so much more for people around the world. And guess what? Yeah, they already have secured future because these are highly skill-based expertise, and they will be able to, money will just start running after them, right? So I hope I've been able to put the response to your question in context. Thank you so much, Eunice.
Yes, thank you very much. Our second speaker for today also made mention of something like that, where she spoke about assessment literacy. Yeah, we really dealt with understanding the why of assessment, because when you don't understand why, you most likely will abuse assessment, which is what we have seen over the years that educators do. We have thought it was all about the grades, about the scores, and all of that. So thank you very much for that hands-on experience. All right, Dr. Ms. Uzoma, I'd like to ask you, we know that we have all been about inclusivity, right? Everyone in class doesn't learn the same way and all of that. And so we know that assessments should not also come in one blanket umbrella, right? For diverse learners shouldn't be assessed in the same way. So I want to ask you, how do we ensure equity in our assessments?
Okay, this is one topic that has been, it's been controversial forever and ever, and I don't think it's going to stop anytime soon. Well, but so for me, I always talk about creative problem solving, right? The Nigerian curriculum, we kept talking about, some schools were really flying with that same curriculum, as outdated as it was. They were flying with it. It's all about the way you see the problem and the way you want to solve the problem. So for me, I have come to the terms that assessments, we will forever have standardized assessment. That's given. It's not going to change anytime soon, because it has started from way back. And as no matter how much technology and AI we have, we're going to have standardized results, because schools pride themselves in these things, right? Oh, we made A plus, all our children did A plus. It's something of pride for schools, right? However, we go back to the classroom. While an assessment or an exam will not necessarily have something carved out for the child who is slow, or for the child who is maybe on the spectrum, or for the child who has ADHD, while assessment will not necessarily do that, again, going back to the classroom, we can capture, or we can solve these problems right in our classrooms. And what do I mean by that? It's the objective. If we go back to lesson delivery, right? At the end of the day, we're going to be tested on addition, subtraction, noun, blah, blah. We know what we're going to be tested on. And we know the exams questions are going to be the same. However, to prepare each children who have different abilities, different whatever, to prepare them to be able to answer that same question in the exam, in your classroom is where you do what we call differentiation. Your classroom is where you have that liberty to differentiate. Your classroom is where you have that liberty to let the child who cannot write, okay, talk while it is scribbled for him or her. And of course, later on, the child will then write, because I'm not saying get the students lazy, but it is in the class that a teacher has that liberty to differentiate as much or as the need may arise. Because at the end of the day, what we are all looking for is to teach that objective. There is no need to beat up a child that they have not answered 15 questions based on a particular lesson. They've not answered the same 15 questions that everybody has answered. Again, what is being tested? What skill is being tested? Okay, so if we go back to class, we need to be preparing students. For example, Dr. Tony might be an auditory learner, and I am a visual learner. Okay, how is the teacher in class catering to Dr. Tony's auditory
It's
needs?
you. I'm a kinesthetic learner. I cannot sit down in one place.
Thank you.
Imagine
telling a child, I mean, I've had that in my class before. Imagine telling a child who is kinesthetic, cannot stay in one place, sit down, keep quiet. Like, frustration will deal with you and deal with the child and deal with everybody in the class, right? I have had circumstances where I asked a child to skip counts to learn multiplication. There's nothing wrong with that, because the child likes to skip. The child likes to run around in the class. Okay, let's do it. We're learning multiplication 2 times. We're skip counting. Let's skip count. The child skip counts all around the classroom. At the end of the day, has he learned the times table? Yes. Did he learn it? Yes. Did the person who likes to write plenty, did they also learn it? Yes. The one who likes to sing, did they also learn it? Yes, because that one has gone to rapping. I have had a child who rapped the multiplication table 2 times 1, 2 times 2. So it's all about differentiation. At the end of the day, I have been able to learn multiplication. And when the exam comes, which has exactly the same question, I'm able to answer it because I have been taught. So the solution is differentiation. However, talking about differentiation, we get it wrong sometimes, because we think differentiation is worksheets, the death of worksheets. I don't want to use the word hate, but the way teachers misuse or abuse worksheets. Oh, differentiation is about give Dr. Tony one worksheet, different worksheet, give Eunice another worksheet, give Ireti another worksheet, different, and then that's differentiation. No, there are different ways of differentiation. You can differentiate by outcome, you can differentiate by ability, by pace. You differentiate by pace. You differentiate by questioning, the kind of question you're asking. These are all different ways you can differentiate. But at the end of the day, we're all going to the same place. That's what we should not forget. Because at the end of the day, we're answering the same question. So schools who are clamoring for everybody, government change question, it is a far cry. It's not going to that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. So what we need to do is to devise ways in the classroom, in schools, to teach children these skills, because that's the whole idea. Okay, let them learn how they learn. So I would say differentiation, and always make sure that you are hitting the objective. That's the main thing.
All right, thank you very much. Differentiation is very, very key, and that must happen in your classroom. Yeah, because standardized examinations are not going anywhere very soon. So thank you very much for that.
You're welcome.
Thank you so
It's
much.
not going
All right,
anywhere.
Dr. Toyin. Dr. Toyin.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And I'm so sorry, Miss Eunice, if I may, is it okay if I add something to what
Yes,
Dr. Toyin
please.
said
I was going
earlier?
to say, yes, I was going to say, so that feel free to add.
Okay, because I love the way she was answering that, in terms of creating awareness to parents in terms of, why are we clamoring for grades? If I say something now, Dr. Toyi will start laughing at me. She will say, you and this boy, I've not left this boy alone. Because it's a clear example of what I'm talking about. Pella, that boy Pella, I don't think he finished. See, all of you are laughing because I'm using it as an example. Why will Pella be interviewing a man? So you see, it's not about the grades. I have to say it, because at the end of the day, it's not how many grades, how many score you got first class, or you got. While she was talking, I have to write down some things. Celebrities, famous celebrities in the world who are dyslexic. They are dyslexic. They didn't really do well in school. Whoopi Goldberg.
Yeah.
Whoopi Goldberg is dyslexic. Richard Branson, Tom Cruise. Yeah. They are dyslexic, but they are celebrities. They are the ones reeling in the billions of dollars. And then if we come back to Nigeria, our country, big people who graduated with third class. Wole Soyinka, our famous Wole Soyinka, graduated with third class. Oh yes. Peter Obi, that one doesn't need money for all this. What they are doing about, if he doesn't, whether he rules Nigeria or not, he's made. He graduated with third class. He's a great businessman, great entrepreneur. Tony Elumelu, third class. So what was the grade for? Do you understand? So talking about awareness, we also need to keep letting parents know that at the end of the day, it's not really about the grade. What happens in schools, what is going on is children read. They get the grades, and that's it. Nothing. They're not doing anything with the grades. As a matter of fact, once the exam is done, they forget it.
They forget everything.
They forget
and
everything.
They're not able to translate it into the real world.
They cannot translate it. They cannot apply it. Meanwhile, after that, the ones who did not go to school, who are dyslexic, who graduate, they will come and employ them. Yeah. So parents need to start seeing that reality, that it is not, grades do not matter. Again, we have different kinds of intelligences. There are children who are they are naturalists. Like Tony,
Howard Gardner.
Some are musical, some their intelligence is music. We have to tap into all these things. We're intelligent in different ways. Albert Einstein was also dyslexic. And we're still talking about him today. So it's all about that awareness, yeah?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for throwing more light on that. Yeah, all right. So Dr. Toyin, we quickly come to you. So many teachers don't realize that their day-to-day observations are actually assessments. Now, we found that out in the second session, yeah, because our speaker was speaking about varying the assessment so it doesn't even look boring and all of that. So yes, many teachers don't realize that their day-to-day observations are assessments. How can we teach these teachers? How can we make them know that they need to record these observations, that they are not just in passing, and that they all make up part of their assessments?
Okay, so I believe the first thing we need to be able to do is understand the purpose of assessment itself. You know, Miles Monroe will always say that when the purpose of a thing is not known, abuse is inevitable.
Yes.
And that spans across every single thing we do in life. In fact, whether assessment or no assessment and all of that. There's also a book by Simon Sinek that I love so much. It talks about, you know, it talks about the power of why, you know, talks about why, you know, why do we do things? It was so instrumental. When I read that book, I had to go back to the drawing board to even ask why, you know, our consulting firm exists, Core Skills Transformational Academy Limited. It took me almost 2 days to be able to put that, you know, to put words to the reason why we exist. And it's really to help people not to reinvent the wheel, to my speed. But before I could come up with those words, I had to think very, very deeply. And that also comes to the fore, because if you just say that, telling teachers to write observation, teachers have so many things to contend with that. Observation is the least thing that will come to mind. All right. And okay, so like, again, I will refer again to the event I was in this morning, 3 good hours. And I had to tell the parents to clap for the teachers. And the parents were looking at me. I said, clap. I said, because just 1 week midterm break, you people will be shouting as if you want to die. You understand? Because the work and the heart that teachers wear has really, really a lot. And you would agree with me that also with the evolution of so many things, a lot of teachers are running out of the classroom. It's becoming a pandemic of teachers exiting of teachers exiting the 9th, you know, the 7 to 5 or thereabout. So it's important for us to be able to help teachers uncover the purpose of assessment and why these observations are very critical. Another thing is that we have to also design frameworks that will not make it cumbersome for teachers to submit these observations. So for example, teachers could decide to do video reporting. And let us begin to embrace those things that we even say. Teachers can decide. So there was one of my mentees that moved from one international school to another. And you know, she was really excited when she got to do this new school. But then she was like, Dr. Toyin, it was not what I expected. And I was like, why? She said, because the process of submitting report is cumbersome. And she was lamenting seriously. So the moment the process is not simplified, I tell you, Eunice, middle and line leaders, ask Miss Eunice, you will run after them tire. Let me use our Nigerian balance. The moment the process is not simplified, so it's not just a video about saying, so how do we make teachers realize? Because teachers I do tell people that the teaching itself is just like acting. The lesson planning is like writing the script. And then we now come to the place of assessment. Let me tell you one truth. I hope the world is not listening to me. Sincerely, one of the parts that I did not like the most when I was actively in the classroom is assessment. You see the planning of my lessons, you see the delivering of my methodology, you can't beat me to it. But you see, when it comes to the part of assessment, Eunice, you're laughing at me. I'm telling you, I would rather want to delegate to an assistant teacher, or just find my way to still make sure that because my assessment must still be tied to my learning objective, like Mrs. Uzoma mentioned, for me to be able to measure the effectiveness of the entire teaching and learning process, right? But having to say that, how do we make teachers realize the observation? So we may not even limit being able to measure formatively using just observation. There are other various ways, especially if you can leverage on technology, using gamification, using Padlets, where we could have even students contribute to a place of self-reflection, self-assessment, peer assessment, all right? And it's just being creative around it and just making sure that the purpose, the main reason why the assessment, both diagnostic, formative, and summative assessment is being carried out, is clearly understood. And then I love what Mrs. Zoma also said. So assessment, cutting across cross-curricular links,
Yes.
Assessments cutting across subjects, being able to also use informed data of maybe even right from when the students came into the school, considering the various domains of learning, the cognitive, the affective, and the psychomotor, considering the various areas of child development, looking at frameworks like the EYFS, looking at the holistic. I know that this is, we are going very technical now, but hey, that's just what it is. Looking at the holistic well-being of the children, it's all encompassing. But the most important thing, like I would say, is please cry out loud. The process should be simplified. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Toyin. Thank you. Okay, so yes, we have a question specifically for Ms. Uzoma. And this person says, we design assessment for students, but rarely with students. Do you think that learners, we design assessment for students, but rarely with the students? Do you think that learners should have a say in how they are assessed?
Okay, so I love that question. We design for them, but not with them. You see, that leads me to, because I wanted to contribute to what Dr. Soyite said in terms of how to make teachers realize that, all these things they're doing. I really was going to touch on that. So, but I want to come through school, right? So many times we say teachers should know, teachers should do, teachers should this, teachers should this. But sometimes, when they say the body is willing, they want to do, sometimes teachers want to do these things. But but does the school system allow them to? Sometimes teachers go for CPDs training and they want to go and apply what they have learned. And it's not welcome in that school. It's very frustrating. So I would really urge schools that when it comes to assessments, summits like what Thesis Education Group is doing, really attend courses, go online and learn the trends that what is going on in assessment. Now, education is dynamic. It changes. It is trendy. It changes. It's always changing. It's always evolving. Now, when it comes to assessment, schools need to, first of all, learn by themselves. So the head of school, principal, whoever it is that is heading, middle leaders, everybody needs to first know what assessment is and the different kinds of assessments. So it's going to lead me back to this thing about students. There are different kinds of assessments. So if we go with the basic ones, we have assessment for learning. That's the one that happens on the go in the classroom as you're teaching. That's AFL. We have assessment of learning. That's summative assessment. That's the one that happens at the end of the term or at the end of whatever it is. We have assessment as learning. Assessment as learning. So you're using assessment to even learn. That is where students come in. Okay, that's the first place students come in, because this is not now assessment that you are going to grade, score. You are using assessment and you're using it to learn. Now, after assessment, what happens with after the marking? In the school where I work, after assessment, you give children back their scripts and you have whole sessions where you're using the children's scripts, you're revising it, you're looking at it. You have children questioning the marking. Sometimes the child is saying, I got this one, it was marked wrong, whatever. So there's this whole discussion going around it. And sometimes you see the teachers, oh, okay, that was wrong. You remark it or you whatever. Sometimes after that, you tell the students, okay, what kind of questions would you like to see next? Right? So the students have a say. Apart from that, there's also something called peer assessment, self-assessment. Children can also peer assess each other. They can also assess themselves. These are different kinds of assessment. We have plenaries, mini plenaries. All of these things, children are involved. Now, while children might not get a say into say, oh, I set my own question, I'm going to mark it, right? Why? While they would not do that, they do have a say into the kinds of questions they are looking at for, the kind of questions they would like to see, even the way you're coining the questions they would like to see, they should have a say. So I really love that question. If we are infusing these assessment types, then we are actually already getting the children's voices, because at the end of the day, we do want to have children's voices or students' voices in this. The student agency, they have a say. Children can query what you have marked, and you take it to panel, you take it to court, and at the end of the day, so yes, they will win. I've had, in fact, last Friday, I had to take one of the scripts back to the to the year group to say, okay, let's look at this question. At the end of the day, the question itself was not really, and all that. So we went back to the drawing board. It was a case of everybody back to your screen. Okay, let's go back to number question. So we looked at it. Oh, it should have been like this. At the end of the day, we had a child actually now restructure that whole question. That's students getting involved. Wow. So it's in the way we do these things. There are different kinds of assessment. It's not only exam. Oh, I have an exam, end of term exam. This is it. Where children don't have any say. So we need to employ these different strategies: plenaries, mini plenaries, assessment, peer assessment, self-assessment, peer observation. There are so many
Socratic questioning.
Socratic questioning. There's a document I have. It has 72 ways of assessment for learning. It's a lot. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. So it's about schools being aware and actually practicing these things. So yes, children do have a say, but it has to come from the school, of course.
Yes. Thank you, totally. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. All right, so Dr. Toyin, I have one question for you too. It's like the audience members are now picking the panel.
That's fine.
All right, so this person says, if your current assessment system is leaving some students behind, who is responsible for that failure? Is it the students who neglect studying hard, or the parents who are not monitoring the teachers' methods? What do you think must change immediately?
This is a very, very wonderful question. So I would say that it's not really about pushing the blame. This war will never end. The teachers should be more responsible, parents should be more bro. The most important thing is, what is our end goal? What do we want to achieve? Because whether we like it or not, we are all stakeholders. In a couple of months or years, these are the people that would be taking over decision-making over our lives. The table is going to turn, right? And so let's take, for example, add 30 years to your age, everybody on this call, and then add 30 years to the age of the children that we are teaching right now. Then you understand the implication of what it is that we are doing. So what I would always say is that we all need to take ownership. We all need to take ownership, because you and I will not be as agile and as strong as we are right now in 30 years' time. However, they will then be taking over the way they say the child is the mother of the mother, something like that. Susama is the English person. But I'm just saying that basically the table is going to be turning around, and so we all have to take ownership. In taking of ownership, it is where we all have to come to a place of high sense of responsibility to say, you know what, in my own space, in the capacity that I have been given, I must ensure that whatever it is that I have to deliver on, I deliver on intentionally. So sometimes it comes from even the place of, again, the reason and the purpose why we do what we do. Okay, and I love what Ms. Uzoma said about having students being involved in the process of checking through with whatever it is that we have assessed them on. Imagine the place where the question in itself was not properly put together. Instead of to bring about clarity and reinforce learning, is actually bringing about confusion. And guess what? There's a skill that has been transferred for the child to be able to identify that this question in itself was not well constructed.
Yes.
And that is why the process of the test blueprint, which is a technical aspect in education, cannot be overemphasized. How do we set our questions for each question item? What do we want that question item to achieve? Right? So that is the place of the teacher doing their own parts effectively. Now, when assessment has been carried out, there is something that comes after correction. It is enrichment. So we just did do correction like it's a routine. Okay, this is the correction. Whether you don't understand the correction, you don't understand the correction, is your cup of tea. So this is the place where a teacher, a real competent teacher, has to take responsibility to say, okay, after assessment is correction. After correction, the correction must lead to enrichment. In other words, it must lead to reflected, evaluated experience in such a way that when such children encounter such problem again, whether in the form of written, verbal, experiential situation, they are able to identify and then being able to solve it with the snap of their finger. That has to do with the part of we educators. Now, on the aspect of the children taking ownership for their learning. So yes, I get that sense of a lot of children nowadays, they don't want to read, they don't want to learn. It's because, I can't remember which education is. He said if children don't learn, I think one of the reasons is that we don't teach them the way they would love to learn. Right? Whether we like it or not, see, we are the one chasing after the student. They don't go tete.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I mean, we are the ones catching up, and we need to catch up very, very fast. Like very, very fast, right? So things like animations, things like video engagement, because their attention, we could stay on the books for a very long time. I mean, the hard copy book, and say today we die here, but how how the children of nowadays learn? Do we have manipulative? Do we have the resources to make sure that we arouse their curiosity and their interest to learn? How safe psychologically, physically is also our learning environment, right? Then it is at that point we can then begin to hold them responsible to say, we have provided you with what it takes for you to learn, but you are not still pulling your weight. Then there must be you must also take up the responsibility of ownership of your own learning. But if we have not given them what is required, it says to whom much is given, much is expected. And then, of course, to the aspect of our parents, it still boils down to, like I said, the 21st century school is not just responsible for educating children. If you don't educate parents, you're going to struggle. They're not going to be at par because we are saying something else, but they are not seeing it. And communication is a two-way street. If the other party is not seeing what you are saying, you are just blabbing, like you are literally echoing. They can't hear you. So I mean, today you needed to see the questions, the parents in the school where I went to have a breakfast meeting. The questions they were asking really show that the school has done a very thorough work in carrying the parents along and letting them know that the partnership between the school and the home is what will bring about the desired results that they wanted as a school. So what also are the school leaders doing? So this particular school have actually taken on the responsibility to say, you know what, the parents, we must all be on the same page to bring about excellence, to bring about being able to transform and empower the entire school community. So until everybody rises up to the place of taking ownership and not cast aspersion or try to push blame from here to there, we will really be stuck. right? And then, of course, we can then cascade to the larger education community, which has to do with our policymakers, those in the government spaces, to also be able to have the right people in the right places to be able to give the right kind of strategic support and advice to ensure that cutting across board from the public to the private to the local schools, we begin to have some form of uniformity, some form of inclusion and fairness when it comes to the learning outcomes of our students.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
Questions
that was exhaustive.
Thank God,
yes.
Thank God, is there a principal that you can put on this kind of outfit? God, I beg.
Okay, if I may quickly add to that, on top of, I like the way she said, this is not about casting blame, because it's really everybody's involved in this. But one thing I would like to also point out, especially to schools, and maybe cascade it down to teachers and all that, one of the things we miss a lot when it comes to assessment is data. Because data assessment is supposed to give you data. When after assessment, you notice the children who did well, the children who didn't do well, where they did well, where they didn't do well. The question they failed the most, the questions they got the most. Why? So in looking at the analysis, the data, in analyzing data, you will find trends. That's really so. In finding trends, you will see that this particular child is not doing well. This particular child is maths or is English or is this, or in first time. So you see, if you don't find those trends, you will keep throwing blame. Oh, you just go, this child is not doing well. But it's in analyzing the data that you find the trend. Now, sometimes that trend can be that it's about the classroom, it's about the environment where the assessment is taking place. So you might want to find out, okay, should I move this child from this seat to another seat? Is it the lighting? Is it the chair? All these things really matter. Sometimes it's like the child is really intelligent, but it's just the environment. It's not a conducive environment. That's what trend will tell you. It can also be sometimes that it's a home front. It can be a child who is the parents are going through a divorce, and the child is affected. So you need to dig deep and find these trends. And then after these trends, after you found out, there's something called intervention, or different schools call it different things. You will actually place these students on an intervention and actually cater to their needs exactly, where it's hurting or where, whatever the problem is. But we can't just keep looking at a report and say, this child is not doing well, it is this teacher's fault. This child is not doing well, it's the school's fault. No, it's really about the best of teachers can, at the end of the day, their children are not doing well. But it might not really be the teacher's fault. It might be coming from the students. So it's good, it's very good that data analysis is a big deal now. Everybody needs to learn data analysis.
So we all have to become data analysts overnight.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I've actually written it down, like seriously.
Oh, yes. I'm telling you. Data is like the new currency now. Everything is about data. You need to watch out the numbers. You need to look at the numbers, percentages, what is going, especially the trends. You will notice what is going on. Sometimes there's a particular child that on Thursdays, this child is always going to use the restroom. Whether it's example.
Miss you, by the time we start measuring that one, you want to kill us. Always using the restroom again.
No, but again, data will show you that. So on a particular day,
the clock in,
for the teachers.
Then you have to investigate why.
Yes, there was a particular teacher who used to take off on particular days. And at the end of the day, we're not finding out why. Oh, okay, so this is why. We need to look at these things. Honestly, you have to look at it. For some children, they don't like the teacher. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that.
I love the way you were able to transition from not just focusing on the cognitive aspect of assessment and the use of data, but across the different learning domains. And what I also wanted to also add is that in also looking at data, there's just this way our brain works. We just quickly pick what is not working. But data would also help us to see what is working.
What works. That's
Yes,
right.
what works.
And you build on it. You leverage on the strength and build on it.
Exactly. And then that actually gives us very beautiful outcomes that,
Absolutely.
it's super, super amazing. And that's something I do when even I get to see the results of my children. I try to amplify, but look at what you've done. But interestingly, even my children don't see that, because the moment they see it, they're afraid of their dad to say, hey, this is what my father would do. So I've always been intentional to say, look at this particular trend. From last term to this term, you have made, several improvements across here. And they're like, Mommy, I can't really see it. Mommy, I wasn't really looking at that. So being able to spot and being it actually takes some level of intentionality. So
it does.
It does. Outcomes with data.
It does.
Yeah.
It's always thank you very much.
It's always a fantastic combination of having myself and Ms. Uzoma on the call.
That is absolutely correct. We should do this more often.
Honestly.
All right. So shortly before I take your final thoughts for the session, I have one last question for Ms. Uzoma. The teacher says, I know how important feedback is in giving assessments, but my students don't act on it. What do you think? What do you think effective feedback looks like? And so that's what the teacher thinks.
All right. So the first thing I want to say about feedback, and you see, sometimes it's easy for us as teachers to just say they are not doing it. We can say, I've tried everything. We love that. I've tried everything, they're not getting it. At the end of the day, when we start digging down, you will not say, oh, I should have done it this way. Oh, thank you for this. So, the thing about feedback, right? Feedback has to be timely. Feedback has to be relevant. You cannot be giving a child feedback on what they did 2 weeks ago when you're teaching another concept. So it has to be timely, it has to be relevant, okay? It has to be doable, achievable. If you tell a child you can do better as feedback, what am I supposed to do?
It's vague.
Very vague. Very vague. What do you want me to do? Even we discourage well done. Well done for what? Great job. Great job. Bravo. Excuse me. Kudos. What am I doing with that? So feedback has to be specific. So there's something called deep marking, right? Deep marking is where you are. So apart from what I see some teachers do is you take a child's work, you just do tick, 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 or bad, or whatever. And you say, good job. You write the date under it, okay? But feedback should be more than that. I mentioned self-assessment and peer assessment the other time. Okay, when children peer assess or when they self-assess, they are learning skills. Like Dr. Toyin mentioned it earlier. If a child is peer assessing, like assessing another child, they are learning rubric. What am I looking for to mark that work?
Success criteria.
Success criteria. Those are the things they are learning. And we did it so. I did it so well. Children get used to it to the point where even if you mark them right, they will come back and tell you, no, I got this wrong, and you marked it right. Because they understand what they are looking at for, and they know that it's not just about getting it right? So now going back to feedback, students acting on feedback, okay? What most teachers do is you swamp, you overwhelm students with so much feedback. Let me take an example. A child has written a piece of work. In that piece of work, there's grammar error, there's a paragraph error, there's whatever. There are so many things inside. Great feedback should focus on one thing per time. Focus on one thing per time. Do you want this child to work on paragraphing for now? Yes, you can come back to spelling later, but they cannot be working on paragraph, spelling, grammar, whatever, everything at the same time. They will be overwhelmed. They will, in fact, that's what makes them hate learning. you know? So take one thing at a time. What is it you want them to work on per time? Okay, there's also something called WWW and EBI. I'm sure we know about that. What went well? And then even better if. What went well? You punctuated your piece of writing properly. You used your capitalization, blah, blah, blah. Even better if you give paragraphs or whatever, then the child will go on and practice that. And the next time you are actually now looking out for that. Children cannot just on their own take the, when we say they don't act on it, how do they act on it? You need to also demand it. You need to demand it. So you've told this child, work on using more adjectives, right? How am I supposed to use more adjectives if I don't get a task or an activity where I would do that? Do you get my point? Yeah. It comes back to the teacher. You still have to give that child an activity or a task or an opportunity where they would act on it. They cannot act on it in abstract.
Nice solution.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. Now, teachers might say, okay, but the next lesson we will now be learning something else. No problem. In lesson, you can use whatever the children, let's say you marked a task, right, previously. Your next lesson, you can use that as a starter.
Yeah.
Everybody open your books. What was your feedback the last time? What was your feedback the last time? Okay, everybody make corrections. Everybody write one sentence. Let's say it's an adjective. Very quickly, write one sentence in your book where you have adjectives. That's how they act on it. They cannot act on it by themselves. So it's a combination of things. First of all, give them manageable feedback, something that they can work on per time. And you also need to demand it too. If you have told them to do something, give them that opportunity. It's like when you're asking God for courage. God will not throw down courage from heaven. God will give you a situation where you would have to show courage, right? And you let that's how it works. So God will not throw down courage. So it's the same thing. Work on so thing. Give them the opportunity to do it. You must create that opportunity for them to act on. You have to demand it. You have to ask for it. You look out for it. That's how it works.
Yeah. All right.
I also wanted to just add a little bit of thought.
Okay.
One thing also is that we should be able to encourage our students to give us feedback as well as educators. I know that it's a paradigm, right? So while we are saying that children don't take our feedback, sometimes can we just ask children to give us feedback? Okay,
as teachers,
as educators, yes. it's just flipping the coin, and guess what? They are automatically helping you to improve your practice as an educator. See, education, it's skill based. Everything that we are sharing here, if you don't do them, it's hands-on, if you don't practice. And that is why, even though, yes, we may have some issues with our teacher training, standardization, and all of that, but the truth is that the real learning in teaching is in doing, right? The more you are able to act on the knowledge that you have been able to acquire, bridging the gap between knowing and doing, that entire process is actually what makes you an experienced, qualified, and a teacher that stands out. So we can also ask our students to give us feedback. Yes. Thank you, Omotolani. She said, yes, asking kids for feedback works almost all the time. Absolutely.
Okay, Eunice, lastly about feedback, okay, in terms of acting it out, there's also something called verbal feedback, all right? Verbal feedback happens, so the children are doing tasks, right, on their tables or wherever. You, the teacher, you are going round and actually checking what they're doing right there and then. Let's not always wait for when they are finished. Everybody, come and submit your book on my table. Then you will now take 2 weeks to mark it. Sometimes by the time you finish marking, whatever feedback you've written in the book, the students might not even get to see it. So verbal feedback or instant feedback happens when they're actually doing the work. You're going around checking, and right there and then you're checking, oh, Hillary, you know, you did. Do you want to correct this? Immediately. This one is like instant feedback and they're acting on it immediately. Sometimes we also miss that. When you give children tasks, go around and check what they're doing. When they're doing think, pair, share, right? You've asked a question and you've told them think, pair, share. As they are discussing on their tables, as they are doing small group tasks, you, the teacher, you're going around and listening to what they're saying. That's when you hear, and you can hear misconceptions, you can hear what is wrong, and you correct it immediately and have them do it on the spot. So that also works. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. It's been an amazing time having discussions with you. And like I said, we need to do this more often.
Oliver Twist.
Oliver Twist.
Yes, the Oliver Twist.
So before I let you go, I would like to ask for your final words. Yeah,
you said final the other time, Eunice.
No, I said before I ask.
I'm actively listening. No. Hey.
I said before I ask for your final words. I wanted to ask the feedback question. So now it's time for the final words before we call it a day and we wrap up Island 4.0. Yeah, since morning we've been talking about assessments, closing the gaps, and ensuring the pathway to equitable assessments. So please let's have your final words, Dr. Toyin, before we wrap it up.
Each time you call me like this, Eunice, my brain is just my brain just quickly reboots that. What is she coming to tell me again? Okay, so my final words is on how we can actually close the assessment gaps, because I think that's the overall theme for the conversation we've been having since morning. I will really go back. It's been a very, very hectic day and busy day for me. So how do we close the gap? I just have some few tips to share as I conclude. Sincerely, more than ever before, we can never overemphasize the aspect of we being able to train teachers in inclusive and cultural responsive assessment. It's a deep concept, but then we have to help teachers to recognize biases, use culturally relevant examples, because hey, guess what? I mean, every teacher now is a global teacher with the use of tech. You can find yourself teaching in any continent of the world, right? Streaming from your phone or your laptop. So we're talking about a globally fit teacher, you know, being able to also differentiate tasks based on learners' needs and designing assessment that reflects diverse ways of thinking and expressing knowledge, okay? Another very important tip is that, just like Ms. Yu has said, standardized testing will never go away. But what is most important is we've been able to say, all right, whatever the case may be, I can diversify on how I think about the assessment formatively, because standardization still is something that is there. But we can look at projects, demonstrations, performance-based tasks. We can look around oral assessment, digital assessment with accessibility options. Another very important tip is, you know, using learning and assessment tools. Very key. We must begin to get ourselves aligned with the use of digital tools, assistive devices for learning, especially with children with special needs. The IEPs, we must keep abreast, because right now we are also preaching inclusion and inclusivity in education. Another very important aspect I also want to talk about in closing the gaps is also being able to use differentiated assessment for different learners' profile. And then most importantly, let's strengthen the use of formative assessment rather than just the high-stakes testing. Can we do a lot more with saying that, okay, the entire process of learning, how are we breaking learning into chunks to ensure that for every learning that takes place, we're able to understand and get feedback that learning has really taken place. Low-stake quiz, exit tickets. Ms. Uzoma loves this a lot, especially for virtual sessions.
Yes.
Short reflective tasks, weekly practice assessments, and like we've said, we've delved a lot around teacher observation. The 6 points I would like to talk about is also being able to engage parents and the entire stakeholders in the assessment process. I love the aspect of, you know, the rubrics. Rubrics is just so beautiful. It just makes life very easy across boards, and it helps to involve students in self-assessment as well. and checking for clear feedback. And finally, we've been able to leverage technology for personalized learning, especially looking at children in the higher grades, that's the year 7 and above, all right? Because sincerely, the use of technology in the workplace is the reality of the life that, I mean, look at this entire summit. We having such an amazing time with the use of tech. You can imagine how powerful this is, and you can imagine the fact that anyone across the world can actually join in, and that's just the future of work. So being able to leverage on technology will also go a long way in closing the gap.
Back to you. Thank you. Thank you so very much. All right, now we'll come to you, Ms. Uzoma. In one sentence, please just give us your final words. Let's run away.
Oh, okay. So for me, I like to go back to the drawing board. So I would say, way before we get to assessments, let's deal with how we are teaching. So what are you doing in your classroom already? So teach for skills. Do not teach just to let children pass exams. So teach those skills. The questions you want them to answer in the exam, teach them in the class. Teach them how to answer the questions. That's one thing we don't really do. We don't sit down and teach children how to answer questions. If you see this kind of question, how do you answer it? What are you expected to do? We need to do that. So for me, I always like it's like deal with it in the classroom. There's something I saw one day. They said if the eagle wanted to deal with the snake, it doesn't deal with the snake on the floor. He would pick the snake, take it to the very high altitude, and deal with it there. Scatter the brain, confuse it.
The breath will go away.
He break everything. Then he will just release it. By the time the snake reaches floor, piao, no need to shout and anything. So for me, I like to deal with
strategic dealing.
Yes. So for me, I say let's tackle these things in the classroom, because if we're tackling this in the class, we will not even have these gaps in the first place. So for me, teach for skills and not just to pass exams. And I would like to say, identify students' abilities. The children in your class have different abilities. They speak different languages. So get that child who, if you're teaching, you have to sing it. Yes, sing it, animate your voice, dance. The teacher, if you don't behave like a mad person in the class, you're not a teacher. You have to, you have to cater to different abilities, the one that likes you. You have to do it the way to get to them. That is as simple as that. It's as simple as that. So let's identify students' abilities, students' intelligences, and target that, and infuse that in how we're teaching. Again, let's differentiate by ability, questioning, pacing, whatever outcome. We can even differentiate via resources. What resource is Dr. Toyin using? She can use she can use counters, while I am using whatever, abacus. It's differentiation. So let's learn to differentiate in the classroom. And again, questioning is very, very, very important. If I tell you, Miss Eunice, if I ask you, the mom beat her daughter because she was drunk. Who is she? Who was drunk? So the way you ask a question, when you say the mother beat the daughter because she was drunk, who was drunk? That she is referring to who? So the way we ask questions is very important. You can ask that question and I can decide that she is the mother, or it's vague. So let's ask effective questions that the children can really get them to think and bring their creativity and think critically. And then schools should do a lot of research. Please, education is trending. Things are changing like every day. So do a lot of research, check, discover what is going on, what is trending. Now we have Magic School, we have Brisk Teaching. There are so many tools happening online. Some of them are very free. Brisk Teaching is free. Attach it to your Google extension and you can use it in class. There are so many things happening out there. So schools research and find out what is trending, what people are using. And then lastly, less of teacher talk. Teachers talk too much in the classroom. Teachers talk too much. The children rarely get any time to say anything, to do anything. So less of teacher talk and let children talk. Let children discuss, let them engage students, let them go outside, let them do outdoor learning. All these things add up to helping them to assess well, to do well in assessments. These are different factors that, I would just encourage both teachers or stakeholders in education to really consider. And with those few words of mine, I hope
Yeah.
I have not.
Yes, we are very
All right.
convinced.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much to our panelists. We totally appreciate your presence here and all the insights you have shared.
Yeah. You're welcome.
So with this now, we come to the end of iLearn Summit 4.0. Yay! A big thank you to everyone who has been part of this journey from inception.
Miss Eunice, well done. I'm just going to take out this time and just say well done. Thank you. I mean, you've been talking since morning. Well done to you. Well done to Ireti, the woman behind the scene. Everybody is doing their magic. Dr. Tony, well done to you too. I know you were there in the previous sessions. Well done to everyone. Yeah, it's been awesome.
I wasn't there actually. I was there in the spirit.
Oh, okay. I know Tolani was there, so Tolani, well done.
Yeah, I had two speaking engagements today.
Okay,
so I just had to show up tonight.
Thank you,
everyone.
Thank you,
well
everyone.
Done, amazing. Well done, Eunice.
Yeah.
And yes, to our visionary, Mr. Bossman. We salute, sir.
The prof himself. The prof himself.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Yes, it's great that we're coming to the end of the summit on a very high note. To all our listeners and viewers from everywhere across the world, we thank you very much. Like we said earlier, the sessions are live on YouTube. Feel free to have a recap. Feel free to listen in again and again and again as much as you have to, because we must close the gaps as we get the best outcomes in assessments. Thank you very much, everyone, for being a part of this. Until we see you again next year, keep making impact. Yeah, thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Bye.
Bye, everyone.